All right, guys, we got our call-in time, 717-844-5984. That's our hotline where you can record your questions. Micah, what's our first question tonight?
Dr. Steve, my name is Jeff Young, and I'm from Texas. I just had a question about, I just wanted to know if maybe possibly how long will it be taking for like gas prices to come down and stay down, because Trump has been in office now for a couple of months, and it seems that the gas prices will fluctuate. It's like for a few days they go down a little bit and then they go right back up. And it's just like, I'm just curious to maybe, I don't know when they'll like go down and stay down and be, Anyways, thanks so much, Dr. Steve. You're the best. I love your channel. I watch all your videos. I'm a very big subscriber. So thank you and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you and God bless you too, and a wonderful Easter to you and your family. Yeah, great question. Great question. So from what I've been reading, yes, the fluctuations are good. We do want to see those prices going down every chance we get, and by God's grace, because of Trump's policies, particularly if I recall, he made a deal with Saudi Arabia to ramp up their oil output. That's while at the same time we're creating the infrastructure, pipelines, and so forth for just American-centered energy. It took, if I recall, in his first term, it took about 2 years. It took about 1.5 to 2 years before energy prices just plummeted. People mocked us when we said back in 2016 that Trump had the potential of bringing energy prices back to under or around $2 a gallon. And there we were. We were sitting at $2 a gallon on average. I think that was the national average for those 2 years. Now keep in mind, you're in Texas, so I think you're obviously good to go. But if you're in California or any big blue state, Connecticut, you're going to have a lot, even Pennsylvania, you're going to have a lot of local and state taxes imposed on your tank. Right now in Delaware, it's just under $2. But in the moment I notice when I go into Pennsylvania, I'm 10 minutes away from the Pennsylvania line. It hits up $3.30 easily, $3.30, $3.40. So the state can make a difference, but it looks like Trump has brought some relief with some of the deals that he's been making internationally with the OPEC countries, and to fill in the gap of how long it's going to take to revitalize our energy sector that really was decimated under the Biden administration. So figure within the next year, given just the speed and the rapidity that he's operating with, figure within the next year, we're going to have very low and very solid, very consistent gas prices. So should be months. It should be months from now. It shouldn't be too long. But first, gang, in a time when uncertainty dominates the headlines, finding the truth amidst the noise is more important than ever. With competing narratives, algorithm-driven echo chambers, and hidden biases influencing what we see, distinguishing fact from spin has never been more challenging. That's why I turn to Ground News. Ground News gathers news from over 50,000 sources worldwide, and unlike other news platforms, it exposes the spin behind every story, helping you see the full picture. That's why the Ground News app has earned over 10,000 five-star reviews from people who want to stay informed without the bias. See for yourself at ground.news/Steve. Now, one of my favorite features is the blind spot feed. It highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by either the left or the right, helping me get a more complete view of the news. And for every story, Ground News gives you a breakdown of the sources covering it, the bias of the media outlets reporting from the left, center, and right, how reliable those sources have been in the past, and even who owns them. This is the kind of media analysis you're not going to find anywhere else. So right now, my viewers can get this 40% off, 40% off, unlimited access to Ground News's Vantage Plan. That's the Vantage Plan I have. Make sure you subscribe using my link at ground.news/Steve. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code when signing up. That's ground.news/Steve.
Hi, my name is Chris Ledet, and even though I consider myself liberal, I am deeply feared that the liberals I support, would be communist. That I am deeply fearful of a communist takeover of America, which is why I pretty much denounce the liberal movement. And is my fears rational or just paranoid thinking? What do you think?
It's a great question. So, no, I think you're right. I think liberalism, unfortunately, has morphed into a kind of communism, a kind of Marxism. So liberalism at its best, so we're talking 18th century classical liberalism, was founded on two tenets. And these are probably the two tenets you're very attracted to, and rightly so, because they're very good. The first tenet is the valuing of reason over religion, sort of kind of like a blind religion in the matters of public opinion, and the restraint on executive power so as to maximize individual freedom. So the ideal of a liberal society would be rational and it would be free. It would be rational and it would be free. You would be focusing on scientific reasoning as the basis for public policy as over and against, say, religion. And you're going to be restraining executive power so as to maximize human freedom, individual freedom in particular. What we found, ironically, is that those two tenets died at the hands of liberals. So in the 1960s, in the academy, it became fashionable for liberal academics to reimagine scientific rationalism as a Western form of colonialism. And this happened with what's the advent of called postmodernity. So modernism is rooted, it's an Enlightenment-based movement rooted in scientific rationalism. And then postmodernity basically said all that is, and there is truth to this critique, but only some, not all. That was just the Enlightenment, and modernity was just a European movement and nothing more. And so scientific rationalism, they would argue, was used as justification for the colonization of indigenous populations around the world. And those indigenous populations should be allowed to have their own epistemology, their own way of knowing. And so scientific rationalism was just one of a myriad of different ways of knowing, and then even including religious knowledge. So the fundamental tenet of liberalism, that first tenet, was basically trampled upon by liberals in the academy in the 1960s. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this. And so, ironically, irrationality became just as valid as rationality as long as you could justify it as being a part of your own cultural identity. And then the second thing, this is Patrick Deneen's thesis and why liberalism died or why liberalism failed, is he made the argument that that because liberalism redefined the human person as a sovereign individual that had no moral obligations apart from that which he chose to impose upon himself, that meant that all of what we call the mediating institutions, family, church, community, guilds, organization, what have you, that formed us morally, they were pushed off into the periphery of importance. They were cast aside, and because nature abhors a vacuum, it was the state that came in and took over the welfare programs, took over the family, redefined the family in many respects, redefined religion as just a personal, private thing that's not supposed to have any moral obligation upon you whatsoever. And so what that ended up doing is it ended up increasing the power of the government like never before. So the academy killed the first tenet of scientific rationalism, and then redefining the human person as a sovereign individual with no moral obligation apart from that which I personally choose for myself. That ended up pushing out any sort of, shall we say, para-government, intermediary, a private institution from church and family and community, and the government started taking over those functions. So that got rid of the restraining of executive power so as to maximize human freedom. So rather than have a society that was based on reason and liberty, as it were, now you have a society that's highly irrational and repressive, and enter into that Marxism. I mean, because if you think it through, what is irrational and repressive? What is more irrationally repressive than wokeness? And wokeness is basically cultural Marxism. It's not an economic Marxism. Marxists have made their peace with money. Okay, this isn't Soviet Marxism. They made their peace with money. They made their peace with billionaires and so forth. Now this is a cultural Marxism that recasts the human race in binary terms, as a binary between oppressor and oppressed. So there is always an oppressor group that seeks to colonize and impose its cultural norms, including reason and its versions of liberty. It's always trying to impose cultural norms on this oppressed group. And if you want to know who belongs to which group, you just have to ask, what race are you? That's what kids are taught in CRT classes. That is critical race theory. You know which group you belong to, either the oppressed evil group or the oppressor evil group or the oppressed victim group. You know which group you belong to by virtue of your race. Your race determines which side of that binary that you're on. So it's a very pernicious, racialized, communist kind of belief system. So there you go. I think you're right in believing that liberalism has basically morphed into that. So liberalism, in terms of its ideals, are dead. And so if you're interested, if you want critical thinking, right? If you want common sense measures taken, and if you want to maximize your own individual freedom, it's definitely in the MAGA movement today.
Hey, Dr. Steve. I have a little suggestion for you. Considering the Tesla dealerships and all the Teslas being vandalized and the dealerships being burned down, if Soros really is the person responsible for doing all this, then why not make him pay for it? He does own Progressive Insurance Company after all, doesn't he? You need to get on there and tell all your people, start buying Progressive Insurance, and that way when their Tesla gets vandalized, they can make that son of a bitch pay for it. Have a nice day.
I love it. I did not know. I'd have to confirm if there was a connection between him and Progressive Insurance. I don't know that, so I can't confirm that one way or the other. So Elon Musk has said that Doge has uncovered a definite financial ties with among all of these left-wing groups, some of which have gone so far as engaging in basically domestic, or what we call domestic, acts of terrorism. They do have financial ties with Soros and particularly his Open Societies foundations. Again, largely through USAID. Soros wasn't spending his own money with the Open Societies foundations. He was spending your money. They were getting tens of millions of dollars from taxpayer funds in order to defend democracy. That was, again, all of these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, they all angled themselves as protectors of democracy after the fall of the Soviet Union. That's where they started. They started in the 1960s, these pro-democracy NGOs to promote democracy in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union and China. And then with just the fall of the Soviet Union, the Berlin Wall, what Ronald Reagan said, although these are technically NGO companies, but organizations, but he said the closest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program. Well, we're finding out it's equally true of non-government organizations as well. They just revamped themselves as being for democracy in general, democracy per se. And that's why everything you're hearing against Trump is that he's an autocrat, he's a threat to democracy. You know, J6 was the worst assault on our democratic values since 9/11, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's all they say that because that's how they get the money. That's how they've been getting the money from USAID and the like, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. And that's exactly what Soros has been doing. And then they turn around and they pay these protesters to basically be professional instigators and the like. So as I understand it, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, they're all doing the legwork you need to do in order to prosecute. And so we're going to see in the next few months the extent to which the fruitfulness, as it were, of those prosecutorial efforts. So yeah, let's hope finally whoever is funding these domestic terrorists comes to justice, because it's like Elon Musk has said, it's not so much the useful idiots, the pawns, it's really the kings behind that who are funding them, without whom they wouldn't leave their mother's basement. Hey there, Turley Talker. You know what? I'd love to hear from you. That's why I'm launching the Dr. Steve Hotline, where you can call in, leave a question, and maybe even hear your own voice featured on an upcoming episode of the show. Whether it's about the latest political shakeup or cultural trends or how we keep pushing forward in this new conservative age, I want to know what's on your mind. Call me at 717-844-5984. Just leave your question. I'll be checking in every single week to answer as many as I can. Again, that's 717-844-5984. Your chance to be a part of the conversation. One more time, 717-844-5984. Give me a call and let's talk.